Quick question. How many emails do you read and write every single day? Well, I may be writing approximately 10 emails, but I definitely read over 20 emails a day. But guess what? I have realized that a lot of emails do not sound professional. A lot of people make so many mistakes, and honestly, an unprofessional email is a huge turnoff. Are you one of those people who make mistakes and do not sound professional as a result? Well, if you are, then this lesson is for you because today I'm going to be talking about 7 email mistakes that are made by professionals. Stick with me until the end because this video is going to help you really write good emails by avoiding those mistakes. The first mistake that you probably make is you don't personalize your open statement. Now guess what? There are many people who start their email by saying, I hope you are fine. I hope you are well. Really? Is that how you're going to start your email? Well, let me tell you that these statements don't really hold any value. They're just emails that you've kind of cut, copied, and pasted, right? However, I would suggest that you personalize your statement instead of writing something as boring as that. What do I mean? Start using a statement that is based on the current situation. Current situation of whom? The person that you are writing to. What do I mean by that? Let's see a few examples. Suppose if someone has come back to work after going on a vacation, are you going to start by saying, I hope you are fine? No. You simply go ahead and say, it's great to have you back today. Or you could say, I trust you've had a well-deserved break. And then you go ahead with the remainder part of your email, which is the actual purpose of your email. Or let's say that you're writing to someone for a favor, but you know that the other person has already got a lot of work piled up. Are you going to start by saying, I hope you are fine? Of course, that guy is not fine. He's got so much of work, he's stressed out. So how do you personalize your opening statement? You can say, I hope you're managing to hold up with all the work that is piled up. Okay? So be smart. Don't write statements like, I hope you are fine, I hope you are well, that have no meaning. Personalize your opening statement. Now, there is another way to sound professional. How do you do that? You must use understandable English. It's good to use nice vocabulary, but your English can be professional if it is easily comprehensible. So, in order to do that, you must remember that an email has to be well worded. Well, how can you word an email well? There are certain ways to do it. The first thing you must do is make the use of phrasal verbs. Now, phrasal verbs are a very smart form of English phrases which makes your English sound professional but also very concise and does not make you sound too wordy. Okay, so let's have a look at what phrasal verbs we can use. Now, most of you probably use the word cancel. I would like to cancel our appointment. I would like to cancel our meeting. There's no problem with using that word, but you want to make it sound understandable. You want to make it sound professional and more concise. So I would say, let's call off the meeting, or let's have the meeting moved to another date, right? These sound a lot more native English-like as well. Similarly, instead of saying mention, you could simply say, hey, can we bring up this issue with our director when we meet next Thursday? Why use the word mention when you can use a more understandable and a more smart English phrase like bring up? Or you can say something like, I'm going to hint at this decision when we talk about it in our catch-up next Friday. Okay, so what are we doing? We are using understandable English, concise English, which ultimately sounds professional. Okay, however, there is also another way to sound concise and less wordy when you are writing an email, and that is by using smart business idioms. Like I said, it's not very important to only sound professional by using big words. You can in fact become less wordy, and still sound nice and professional. So use smart business idioms to do that. Instead of saying busy, let's say someone's called you to send a report, but you are busy. Why would you say, I am busy at the moment, when you can use a smart business idiom which is swamped with work? I'm sorry, but I'm swamped with work at the moment. Could we arrange this later? Or could I send it later? On the other hand, there are some people who use the word easily available. Nothing wrong with that. But I have a better replacement by using a smart business idiom, which is at the touch of a button. So we have software which can perform many functions at the touch of a button. So as you can see, smart business idioms and phrasal verbs, they help you make your English understandable, concise, and you end up sounding a lot more professional as a result. Okay? But like I said, there are some more mistakes that you're probably making, so stick with me. Some of you write fragmented emails. Now, what is the meaning of fragmented? Fragment means something which is broken, something that has cracks in it. Do your emails have cracks in it? I bet sometimes your emails might do. What do I mean by that? Now, there is a certain language that you need to use called discourse markers or signposting language. In emails, if you don't use these two little elements in your email becomes difficult to read. In other words, it makes your emails fragmented. Because discourse markers, they are like the glue. They kind of stick together your message. Your idea becomes whole only when you have these discourse markers or transition words which help you transition from one idea to the other. Okay, but let's understand that a little bit more, because discourse markers make your message effective. If you don't use discourse markers, your message becomes ineffective. And of course, if your emails are full of discourse markers and with the right signposting language, it also becomes coherent. Coherent means there is a logical flow to the idea. A person can understand the main idea, the explanation and the conclusion in one logical flow by making your entire idea presentable. Let me help you understand that with an example. Now, have a look at this email. It's kind of fragmented. Let's read it together. It says, we require installing the prototype for this application in 2 weeks. We have asked our software engineers to work on the details. Now, there seems to be no connection to these two ideas. These two ideas seem almost isolated, as if they are part of two different emails. There needs to be a sort of connection. And that is why I need to use discourse markers, right? To connect them, to transition from this idea to the other in order to make this whole. So, what do I use? I would use either in fact or I would use in order to expedite this. Let's see if we can use either of this and have a clearer transition. So if I say something like, we require installing the prototype of this application in 2 weeks. In order to expedite this, we have asked our software engineers to work on the details. What am I doing here? I am saying that this requirement is something that we do have. However, if we want to get this requirement done with quickly, we need to do this. So to move from idea number 1 to idea number 2, you need this discourse marker. It is a transition which helps the idea become clear to the person reading it. Alternatively, you can also use in fact. Okay, so use discourse markers, use signposting language, because that is the glue which brings the ideas together and makes your message effective and coherent and in a nice, organized way. Okay, now there are some of you who are actually rude in your emails, even though you don't intend to be rude. And I don't mean to say that in a very accusatory way, but The problem is that a lot of us do not use diplomacy in language. So you need to be diplomatic. You need to use something called as tact, which means you cannot be offensive. Okay, now how do you think you can be offensive? We'll have a look at that in a while. Okay, but direct language should not be used, which means you have to be diplomatic and you must make your message sound empathetic, which means your message should sound like you are caring about the person that you are writing to. Now, how do you do that? Like I said, you need to ask or use negative questions, especially when you are making suggestions. Okay, this is only one way of being diplomatic. There are many ways, of course. But now you're probably wondering, how can I be positive and sound nice if I'm using a negative question? Let me help you understand that with an example. So, if I'm making a suggestion, if I say, we should do this, what do you think? Do you think it is diplomatic or do you think it is direct? I believe that it's very direct. Because when I say we should do this, it almost sounds like I'm imposing what you should do, what we should do. I'm not even giving you the opportunity to give your idea. However, if I use a negative question when offering a suggestion, then I sound a little less direct. Let me show you how. Wouldn't it be a win-win situation if we did? See, when I'm using the negative question, wouldn't, it's almost like me asking you for your opinion based on what I've said. I'm not just imposing my opinion on you, I'm opening this opportunity for you to also give in your opinion in return. And therefore, you can use diplomatic language in many ways, out of which negative questions in suggestions is one of them. Well, there are also a lot of you who make another very simple mistake and a very silly mistake of forgetting to explain attachments. Well, emails have attachments, but some of us forget to explain it. Now, what happens if you do that? Well, the logical thing that normally happens is that people that you are writing to, they won't even check your attachment, right? I mean, if you don't mention that you have sent an attachment, why would they even check it? I mean, they may forget to do that, right? You can't assume they will. So you need to mention that. However, what is more important is that you must briefly state what the attachment is about. Okay? No surprises here. Don't wait for someone to open it and get surprised in a good or a bad way. Tell them what the attachment is about, right? And make sure that you are connecting the attachment and how it is relevant to the main message. Your email, message, and your attachment, they should have some connection. You can't write an email about the sales and send an attachment about the marketing agenda. You can't do that, right? So there has to be a relevance to the two. Okay, so you need to ensure that you don't forget to explain email attachments. So let's have a look at how we can do that. Here's an example. You can write an email, slip in an attachment and write it like this. You can say, I have attached a file for your reference which contains, go ahead and mention what the attachment contains. It's got the estimated costs, it's got the list of vendors and the time to procure. Okay, always give those details in. However, I want to talk about one of the very common mistakes that people make even today. People think that an email is an essay. Is an email an essay? No. An email was actually made and invented only to write short messages. So are you announcing too much in one email? Are you? Well, probably you are. So therefore, I would suggest that you discuss only one agenda per email. Okay, don't write an email that talks about everything that you possibly can cramp in there. Okay. So I would suggest you stick with only one or two topics in the agenda because that is going to be easier for the reader. Okay. If you want the reader to respond faster to you, give the person lesser things to deal with. Don't give them so many issues. Okay. So deal with only one or two topics and make sure that that is one way to help them process and give you the response much faster. Now, The next, and this is one of the biggest mistakes, which is unforgivable, okay? Nobody can forgive you for this mistake, which is proofreading, okay? Because proofreading is something that removes grammatical errors, spelling errors, etc. The silly errors, right? So now a lot of people, what do? We voice type our messages. Now that is a good thing to do because, software has enabled us to do things faster by voice typing, but sometimes voice typing may not be accurate. It may not give you the exact words that you are looking for. Instead of a your, Y-O-U-R, you may end up getting Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, which changes the meaning altogether. And that's not a good thing. So even if you have a AI suggestion, a lot of softwares come with a word that gets suggested in the email. Now, they may work sometimes, but a lot of times they are not always in the context of the message. Okay? You may mean bear and you may end up getting the word B-A-R-E instead of B-E-A-R. And that's kind of embarrassing because it changes the meaning again. So AI suggestions, again, not 100% reliable. So proofread your message even though you have used software and your voice typing and your AI suggestion. And last of all, make sure that you divide the email into paragraphs, okay? Make sure that your email is not too hard on the eyes. Like I said, your email should not be a paragraph or a big essay. Your email should be easy to read and understand. So make sure you divide the email into paragraphs. Now, I have a little test for you. I won't do this for you, but I would like your comments. Here is an email, which is an email with a lot of mistakes, okay? So please take a screenshot. You can just pause the video here, take a screenshot, and you're going to tell me what email mistakes you can detect, okay? There could be 5 mistakes, 6 mistakes, I don't know. I want you to tell me how many mistakes are there and what those mistakes are. That way I will know if you have understood this video, and that way I will be sure that you are not going to make those email mistakes anymore. Okay? So I will be back with a new lesson, but make sure that you incorporate whatever you've learned today. You learn how to write your emails by avoiding these mistakes and using the right form of language and techniques to avoid email mistakes, thereby sounding more professional. I'll be back with some more lessons, but until then, keep practicing and keep writing professional emails. Take care.